If I wasn't into BDSM just yet, now I certainly am, and I wish I was that enemy. Oh, mommy, tie me up, step on... What do you mean we are already recording? Oh. Evelyn is our newest hot drop and finally enables this bang boot to actually be usable in the first place. If it wasn't apparent yet, I am down bad for her, and that also means this guide will be incredibly in-depth and lengthy yet again. So let's waste no time and talk about her kit and how she plays, her best weapons, disk drives and disk drive sets, her best resource build-up and stun window combos, her main and substats, her teams and Mindscapes, and lastly, let's also talk about her pros and cons. Welcome, I am Rivenous, and this is your complete guide to Evelyn Chavelier. Evelyn is a crit-based fire DPS, and with a base attack of 134, she ranks second among all other current agents, just right behind Ellen. In terms of damage, while she is not on the same level as Miyabi, thank god, she ranks somewhere in between Yanagi and Miyabi, but we have to work for this a bit. Generally speaking, Evelyn is on the harder side of difficulty, not because her kit itself is complicated, but because she does not want to dodge the usual way, and at least for me it took some time to get used to the timings. Let's start with her kit and simplify her essays of a kit description into something understandable, and we begin with her resources. Yes, plural. Evelyn has two resources unique to her, burning embers, which are represented as this red bar here, and burning tether points, which are these 3 points right next to the embers. For simplicity's sake, I will refer to the first as burning energy going forwards. Burning energy is generated when dealing damage using one of the following abilities: basic attacks, specials and EX special, dash attack, dodge counter, assist follow-up, and lastly quick assist. As we can already determine from looking at the table on screen, some abilities are more efficient at generating burning energy than others. But let's put away the table for now and let's look at it again a little bit more in depth when we talk about her combos. Evelyn also features two enhanced basic attacks, which each require and consume 50% of her maximum burning energy. The second enhanced basic attack can also only be casted as a follow-up to the first one. Using an enhanced basic attack will then generate 1 burning tether point, and when at 3 burning tether points, the next use of her enhanced basic attack will then be converted into a chain attack instead, and doing so consumes all 3 burning tether points. Unfortunately for us, this is not all of it, and she has quite a bit more to her kit, which makes her honestly slightly harder to play. Her special has 2 forms. The first form can only be used if Evelyn is not currently within her BDSM binding seal state, while the second one will be used if she already is. The binding seal state is active whenever one enemy is bound to her by her rope, and she can enter the state using either her first form special attack, basic 5, dodge counter, quick assist, assist follow-up, chain attack, or ultimate. Furthermore, her second form special attack as well as her EX special can only be used while she is in the binding seal state, and both of these consist of 2 parts. The first hit will deal damage and generate burning energy, then she follows up with a detonation, which deals a little bit of damage, does not generate burning energy, and more importantly also ends her binding seal state. This is bad, and we want to try to not ever trigger a detonation, as it can be considered a damage loss. The first reason being that her core passive grants her 25% free crit rate while in said state, and while fortunately for us she can retain the buff up to 10 seconds after exiting the state, we will have to re-enter the state, which can cost us significant time and also interrupts our combo. That said, back to her special second form and her EX special. Fortunately, we can cancel the detonation and instead follow up with an alternative version of her basic 3. Not only does the basic 3 deal more damage than the detonation, it also generates us an additional burning energy point, which we would not get if we let her use her detonation. The detonations can also only be followed up with her basic 1, which is the reason why it will cost us significant time and interrupt our combos. This all honestly sounds very complicated, and admittedly it somewhat is, so we will summarize her kit and game plan in just a bit for an easier understanding. But let's first quickly finish up her kit with her ultimate and additional ability. Evelyn does in fact actually have 2 ultimates. Well, technically that is. The first ultimate will remove her cape for the rest of the fight, and without her cape she will always retain at least one burning tether point. Her second ultimate lets us smell her armpits and that's it. It's basically the same ultimate in terms of damage and functionality, as both of them will grant her one burning tether point when cast, and except that the first ultimate puts her in the capeless state, which has her retain said one burning tether point for the rest of combat. For her additional ability, it requires a stun or support character, and luckily for us, that is a very easy condition to fulfill, as Evelyn's additional ability is also pretty strong. It grants her chain and ultimate a free 30% damage bonus, and if her crit rate is at or above 80%, the damage multipliers of her chain and ultimate are increased by 25% as well. This, admittedly, also kinda spoils her build slightly, as we definitely want to make sure to hit the 80% crit rate cap. Fortunately, that is pretty easy, as her talents give us yet another 14.4% crit rate, which means she already has 44.4% crit rate by default in her kit. Lastly, switching her out while she is in the Binding Seal state will have her automatically perform her first form special, which means she will gain Burning Embers and then unfortunately also leave the Binding Seal state. This is important to keep in mind when switching her back in, as we need to make sure we re-enter the state as soon as possible. Alright. Time to summarize her kit and game plan into a very simple and understandable version. We want to use her basic attacks, specials and EX special to generate burning energy. When her burning energy is full, we want to spend it using her enhanced basic attacks, and doing so or casting her ultimate will generate us burning tether points. At 3 burning tether points, we can then spend them to use our chain attack and stat, and after her first ultimate we will only require 2 burning tether points for another chain attack. Looking at her damage distribution, as per usual, we want to focus on her core but also prioritize her chain over everything else. Afterwards we can level her special and basic attacks, then assist and lastly dodge. If you wonder as to why we do not really want to level her dodge, that is because using it will actually lead to a significant damage loss, so let's talk about it. Let's bring back up our table from before and talk more in depth about her kit, specifically her Burning Embers, special second form, EX special and her dodge. Her burning energy is not actually a real percentage or goes from 0 to 100. In fact, given I counted my pixels correctly, Evelyn's Burning Ember scale consists of up to 16 points, which means each point equals 6.25% of her maximum burning energy. If you have informed yourself about Evelyn's kit before watching this guide, you might also notice how I have intentionally not mentioned a very important part of her kit yet. Your specials and EX special can and should be used to dodge incoming attacks. Using them at the right time will trigger a perfect dodge and grant us an additional 4 burning energy. For comparison, her dodge counter only gives us 2. This means dodging the usual way will grant us 2 burning energy, and dodging using her special or EX special will grant us 5. That is honestly a pretty large difference. Furthermore, with each EX special granting 8 points, that also means every EX special equals exactly 1 enhanced basic attack. And that is the perfect segue to the combo section, as it leaves us with 3 relatively easy to understand and honestly basic combos. Special 1 into Special 2 Detonation Cancel into Alternative Basic 3, 4 and 5 being the first combo, and it will grant us exactly 8 points. For our second combo, that would be Quick Assist into Basic 3, 4 and 5, which would result in 8 points as well. The last combo is her EX Special Detonation Cancel into Enhanced Basic 1. If we were now to combine all of this knowledge into one large combo, it would look something like this. Basic 1 or Quick Assist into Special 1 and Special 2 Detonation Cancel into Alternative Basic 3, 4 and 5 into Enhanced Basic 1 and 2 into EX Special Detonation Cancel into Enhanced Basic 1 into Chain Attack. However, only in theory, because this is highly unrealistic, and from personal testing I only have ever gotten off this combo once. Because enemies are extremely aggressive, we will rarely find ourselves in a state where we can actually just follow this step by step. And again, this combo is our main build-up combo for resource generation before going into the stun window, well, minus the chain attack at the end obviously, but in practice, this combo would honestly look more something like this. Basic 1 into Special 2 Detonation Cancel, into Alternative Basic 3 and 4, now again maybe into a dodge, utilizing the Special 2 Detonation Cancel, into another Basic 3 alternative, into yet another dodge using Special 2, and you get the gist. So what does this mean for you and me? Well, for me it means for my spreadsheets I have used the more unrealistic spreadsheet option. While this is still a rotation you can aim for, you will often find yourself, however, interrupting the combo sequence by dodging using your Special 2. Which means, instead of providing further possible combos, I want to leave you with the following guidelines instead. Aim to execute the build-up combo sequence as shown on screen. Pause now if you need to. Prioritize using your Special 2 and EX Special to dodge incoming attacks, however, always cancel the detonation with a Basic 3. If your burning energy is full, use her enhanced Basic 1 and 2, and if your burning tether points are at 3, switch her out and continue with another character to bring the enemy into the stun window. That said, we know now how to build up her resources and how to play her outside of the stun window. So what about the stun window itself? Well, we initiate the chain with another character, such as Lighter for example, and then start with Evelyn chain, then cancel the chain attack into her burning tether chain. Then we have to wait for just a little bit to swap into another character and re-trigger the chain again for the third Evelyn chain. Then we use her ultimate into Enhanced Basic 1, into EX Special Detonation Cancel, into Alternative Basic 3, into Enhanced Basic 1, into the last Burning Tether chain. If you have Astra in your team, we can now swap to Astra, use her ultimate and quick assist back into Eve again for a 5th chain. Truthfully speaking, disregarding your team, you can guarantee 3 chain attacks per stun window using this approach and possibly 4 chains from the second stun window onwards. With Lighter or Astra in your team, you can always guarantee 4 chains, and with both of them we can achieve up to 5 chains. And with that we have honestly covered her combos, and we are also finally back with calculations as well, so let's look at her weapons. Twice in fact. Usually I calculate against neutral enemies, but as her signature weapon provides fire resistance penetration, I had to calculate for fire weak enemies as well. And while both results have the same conclusion, the fire weak calculations look honestly just slightly less worse, so look to the right side, that will just look better for you. Overall, her signature is about 20 to 30% better than the best free-to-play options, with her signature rising ahead the more fire resistance the enemy has. Which means the difference is larger if you plan on brute forcing against fire-resistant enemies. Brimstone is the best store option for her, with Starlight Engine and Marcato Desire being about even. However, Marcato makes her significantly easier to build, which means it is her best free-to-play choice. For her disk drive sets, either a 4-piece Woodpecker or a 4-piece Hormone with either a 2-piece Woodpecker Hormone or Astral or even a Puffer Electro are her best choice. And truthfully, they aren't actually great, but the best options she has right now. While in theory a 4-piece Inferno is technically possible, even 2 crit rate substats will put you at over 100% crit rate, which means it is incredibly hard to build and honestly highly unrealistic, as every single roll would need to go into attack percent and crit damage. You would also want another fire applier in the team, for example Burnus, to even make use of 4-piece Inferno, but I did still want to list it as a possibility though. Let's talk about her main stats, cause we will look at 4 different calculations as they do give us different results. In a vacuum, which means outside of any specific teams, a layout of crit damage in slot 4, fire damage in slot 5 and attack percent in slot 6 are her best in slot choices, closely followed by attack percent in slot 4. If you use Marcato instead of her signature, we will get similar results, but attack percent in slot 4 is now a bit worse. However, things change if we look at team calculations. Spoilers ahead, but Lighter and Astra are indeed her best teammates, and that also means many will run said team. And if you do, things start to turn out differently. If you have her signature, pen ratio in slot 5 with a 2-piece Puffer Electro is now her best choice, ahead by a non-insignificant margin. But this yet again closes in when using Marcato instead, and while still ahead, we are now being slightly more even to the standard layout. So what does that mean for you? If you are not using her signature, taking the safe option with crit damage, fire damage and attack percent is her best choice. If you already know you will use her with Lighter and Astra exclusively, pen ratio in slot 5 and a 2-piece Puffer Electro are her best choices. For our substats, we are looking first and foremost for crit values with a priority on crit damage, then attack percent, and lastly flat attack and flat pen. I do want to mention that hitting the 80% crit rate breakpoint on her in combat first and foremost is the most important thing, but you will only need a very few crit rate substats to do so, which is why I would personally try to prioritize crit damage. We have 44.4% as a baseline, 24 or 20% from her signature and Marcato respectively, which puts us at 68.4 or 64.4 respectively, and an additional 8% from Woodpecker. And that means we are looking at 3 to 6 crit rate substat rolls in total, which honestly is really achievable, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. Let's quickly cover her Mindscapes before talking about her teams. No, stop. I know you're about to skip the Mindscape section, as most of you do, but these sections usually don't take long and you might still want to know whether her M1 or weapon is the better choice. Also, it gives me watch time, so please don't skip, thank you. Starting with her Mindscape 1, it sets her starting decibels to 2500, 1000 starting plus 1500 is 2500, which means you get near instant access to her first ultimate. That is great, but it also means you might not have the ultimate ready for the first stun window if you decide to use it early. This is technically possible if you use a double support team. In addition, she gains 12% def ignore and grants her more AoE, which will result in a gain of about 7% damage, or 10% if you're running her in an Astra-Lighter team with pen ratio and 2-piece puffer. Overall, a really good Mindscape with some nice quality of life. Her M2 grants her 15% combat attack and refunds the burning embers spent on her enhanced basics once every 25 seconds. This effectively cuts down your build-up rotation, which results in a massive DPS gain due to now much faster access to her chains. It is a really good Mindscape, but I also want to point out that an increase in damage per second does not necessarily mean an increase in damage dealt. This Mindscape effectively cuts down her out of stun field time, which technically also makes Chingy a little bit of a better teammate now. Her M3 and M5 are both pretty okay, both resulting in about 8 to 9% more damage. Her M4 grants you a shield, and while the shield exists, her crit damage increases by 40%, which means that attack percent in slot 4 when using her signature is now a slightly better choice. Like really just slightly, I would not sweat about it, the difference is marginal. Her M6 is surprisingly not that great, which mostly is due to it taking effect outside of the stun window, as we will be busy just doing, chain attacks during the stun window, which means it literally doesn't matter. Overall, her Mindscapes are honestly pretty underwhelming overall, and I would recommend going for her weapon much over any of her other Mindscapes. If you still intend on pulling for Mindscapes, first of all please spend reasonably, or better not at all. Her Mindscape 2 is a good stopping point. Time for her teams. As already spoiled before, Astra and Lighter are her best teammates and it is ahead by a large margin. Lighter's stun duration extension is super valuable for an additional chain attack, and Astra gives you literally 1 or 2 chains for free. Generally speaking, while Eve does take significant field time for building up her resources, she still appreciates a stunner. However, she does not appreciate on-field stunners who take a lot of field time, for example Chingy. While Chingy works in theory, she takes too much field time for pre-M2 Evelyn, but she does become a better choice afterwards. Finally, I can also pass on more Collider propaganda, as she is a fine choice for Evelyn, boosting her chain attack damage. This obviously also scales with how many chains you are able to get in the first place, which means the more chains during the stun window, the better Collider becomes. Other choices include Caesar, Lucy or Crit Burners, and obviously there are also other teammates I have not mentioned yet, such as Nicole, and also other layouts, for example double support. But the teams shown are the best choices you have, at least from personal playtesting. Here are some buffs from Lighter, Collider and Caesar for comparison. Please keep in mind that Collider stuns much faster than Caesar, which means that she will provide more stun windows than Caesar will in exchange for a smaller buff. Lighter just rises ahead uncontrollably, however, due to him providing Evelyn with both insane damage buffs and a stun application. Lastly, let's end the video by talking about her pros and cons, and then we head into the showcase. For her pros, she has armpits, a rope, and also deals significant damage. In all seriousness though, her damage is great. However, it also depends significantly on her teammates, as not having Lighter will be very noticeable. The more chains you get in, the better is her damage, and that is in addition to your team, which is also very dependent on your skill level, as web cancelling her chains becomes a noticeable damage increase and may make or break an additional chain. In addition, because of that, she will also perform worse against enemies which have a reduced stun duration, namely Morse, Pulstar and Jane. Her weapon options are honestly okay, at least if you have Brimstone. Without Brimstone, it is honestly looking a little bit rough. Her Mindscapes are mid, but that can be a positive as well if it makes you feel less pressure to pull for Mindscapes, hence I will put it as a neutral. She is incredibly fun to play and has okayish non-lighter team options such as with Collider and Caesar or Lucy. Unfortunately, she is really missing her best in slot set, which means her best options right now are either Hormone Punk, which is either somewhat inconsistent as you have to pray to get the damage boost at the right time, or Woodpecker, which is really shitty to farm due to being paired with whatever this set is supposed to be. No, seriously, who designed that? And with that said, I hope this video has been helpful to you. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Zenless Zone Zero guides, leave me a comment on whether or not you are pulling for Evelyn or not, and enjoy the showcase. Peace.